Hi, this is David Ludwig, Associate Broker with Gary DeMauro Real Estate, a boutique agency in upstate New York. My specialty is the second home buyers market, and that is how I came to meet and work with Peter Scordo. Right now, I'm at home in the Hudson Valley. We are 2 hours north of New York City, easily accessible by car or Amtrak. The Hudson Valley is known for its incredible natural beauty owing to the Catskill Mountain Range and Hudson River. This area is rich with history and vintage architecture and old villages and farmlands. Artists have been making the Hudson Valley home for 200 years. Today, people come to the Hudson Valley for the arts, but also for nature, outdoor sports, the locally raised food scene, eclectic restaurants, and antique shops. Many people come to the Hudson Valley to purchase their second home. And with city real estate prices as high as they are, many people continue to rent in the city, but they buy their second home here first. I met Peter as a referral through his friend Michael, who I recently helped find a house in Hudson. In fact, Peter's find is just right around the corner in the same historic neighborhood. Now, Peter really knows himself and knew what he was looking for in his house search. He was very clear about price point, size, style of house, and location. Yet, since the real estate market is so strong in this area right now, that didn't leave us many houses to select from, but there were a few. There's this generational shift in homeownership going on here right now. Longtime homeowners, living or dead, are turning over the keys to a younger generation of first-time homebuyers. And those houses generally haven't been touched in years, as you can imagine. And since Peter's search budget was at the lower end, we were looking at what you would call real fixer-uppers. And each of those homes came with their own individual funky situations. Now, one house I think Peter originally first put tops on his list needed the most amount of rehab work. I would say that just about everything in this house needed to be repaired, replaced, was missing, out of date, or forget about it. The interior paint color was really strange too. There was this consistent yellow color on the walls from room to room, and it wasn't a yellow that I was really familiar with. So we removed this picture from the living room wall to reveal the original white color underneath. So that meant what we were looking at, actually, was years and years of cigarette smoke and tar buildup. And that's why all the windows were open in the house in late fall. Something about that house really spoke to Peter, and he had a vision. But for my experienced eye, it would be a nightmare vision for a first-time home buyer. What I suggested to Peter was that a house in better condition might be better suited for him and his first project, and especially since he has a full-time job and hasn't the time to oversee a complete rehab. I'm glad that he came to understand the importance of realistic selection, and we moved on from there. Another house had an unusual right-of-way situation, permitting neighbors to enter into the backyard through a gate, allowing public passage from front to back, one street to the next. Not good. And then finally, the Washington Street house that Peter ultimately selected. This old Victorian home had been in the same family's hands since the 1950s. It passed from one generation to the next. I know this sounds sweet, but it also created a problem for Peter in purchasing the house. Some years ago, a trust was formed for the family, but over the years, family members died and the document was lost. Essentially, a clear title to the house could not be established without it. The original lawyer that prepared the trust was also gone, and the house was technically unsaleable. This all came as an 11th hour surprise. Now, Peter was quite set on closing by a specific date and getting the house to start his work. But that didn't quite happen as planned. Ultimately, this was resolved, but it took some time. My point is, in real estate, you should expect the unexpected. This means there will always be something to slow down the transaction, and you may not be able to cook that first Thanksgiving meal or host a New Year's Eve party in the first year as you had planned. But home ownership is a long-term joy, and I tell my buyers to look towards the long term, the big picture, and all the years they will be spending there, and when they look back, hopefully all they will remember is the good.